Okay, so today we're going to dive into a really fascinating idea of ownership, but from a perspective you might not have thought about before. We're talking about the Islamic theory of property, or al-Milkiyyah, which sees ownership as not just a right, but as a huge responsibility. And it all kicks off with this really profound idea. In this framework, the true, absolute owner of everything, and I mean everything, is God. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means our ownership isn't absolute. It's more like a delegated authority, a trust that's been given to us. So what does this trust actually look like day to day? Well, al-Milkiyyah is defined as a right over property that lets you use it, get benefits from it, and keep others from using it. But, and this is the most important part, it's all regulated by divine law, the Sharīʿah. So yeah, private property is totally recognized, but it comes with this built-in sense of duty to society and accountability to God. And that brings us right to the core principle of this whole system, this idea of stewardship, or what's known as istiqlāl. Think of it less like owning something outright and more like being its caretaker. You're a trustee, and the property you have is an amana, a sacred trust. It's a really interesting middle ground, you know? It's not a purely capitalist view where your rights are absolute, and it's not a socialist view where everything is communal. It's about individual trusteeship with a social conscience. And this isn't just some old philosophy. It actually influences modern policies, like how endowed Wakālah lands are managed in Malaysia to make sure they keep benefiting the community for generations. All right, so if ownership is a trust, how do you become a trustee in the first place? Well, the framework is actually pretty clear about the right ways to acquire property. It really boils down to three main paths. The one we're all familiar with is contracts, or uqūd, buying and selling, getting a gift, that kind of thing. The second is inheritance, or irth, where property just automatically transfers when someone passes away, based on a clear set of rules. And the third is what's called first possession, which is all about getting ownership through your own hard work, like cultivating unused land and bringing it back to life. Now here's where it gets really, really interesting. Not all ownership is created equal. The system makes this super clear distinction between owning something completely and just owning some of the rights to it. So here's the key difference. On one side, you've got complete ownership. This is what we usually think of as owning something. You have the thing itself, and you have the right to all its benefits, its usufruct. You can use it, sell it, give it away. But on the other side, you've got incomplete ownership, where your rights are limited. It's basically the legal difference between owning your house outright versus just renting one. Let's break that down a little more. Incomplete ownership could mean owning specific rights tied to a piece of land, like the right to use a path that cuts through it. Or it could be owning the property itself, but not its use. Think of a landlord who owns the apartment, but has leased the right to live in it to a tenant. The big takeaway here is that the benefits of a property, the manfa'ah, can actually be owned separately from the property itself. This all leads to a huge question, right? If you do have complete ownership of something, can you just do whatever you want with it, no questions asked? Well, this is where that delicate balance between individual rights and social responsibility really kicks in. So let's take a look at the ethical and social boundaries that are built around this right to own property. The right to property is definitely not a blank check. First off, you can't own things that are just flat out prohibited. You also can't get property through illegal means like charging interest, gambling, or theft. And this is crucial. How you use your property can't cause harm to other people or be excessively wasteful. That's called israf. And if these rules get broken, or if the wider public interest, the maslahah amma, is at risk, the state actually has the right to step in. This is the basis for things like price controls on essential goods. And this isn't some new modern idea. There's a really strong historical example for this. The second caliph, Umar, once granted land to Bilal, one of the Prophet's companions. But when Bilal wasn't able to cultivate all of it, Umar actually stepped in and reallocated the unused part to other people who would make it productive for the whole community. Okay, so beyond just the rules for private property, there are some things that are considered so essential to life that they can never, ever be privately owned. This all goes back to a foundational principle from the Prophet Muhammad. He said that all people are partners in three things: water, pasture, and fire. I mean, what a powerful statement. It basically creates a whole category of communal resources that have to be managed by the state for everybody's benefit. And this principle gets extended to cover all the big natural resources: oceans, rivers, forests, minerals, plus public infrastructure like roads and bridges. This is exactly why you see state-owned companies like Petronas in Malaysia managing the country's oil and gas. The idea is to make sure that this massive national wealth benefits all the citizens, not just a handful of people. Phew, okay, that was a lot of information. So how about we see what's stuck? I'm going to throw 3 questions your way. Go ahead and post your answers down in the comments below. I'd love to see what you think. First up, what is the ultimate source of ownership in this framework? Question number 2, which one of these is a perfect example of incomplete ownership? And for our last one, question 3, which of these is not considered public property, meaning it can be owned privately? So there you have it, a look into the theory of al-Milkiyyah. We'll leave you with this last thing to chew on. In our world of cryptocurrency, NFTs, and intellectual property, how can a centuries-old theory built on stewardship and social good help us navigate our modern debates about owning things you can't even touch? Thanks for joining this explainer.